February 23rd, 2025, David Bedein in Jerusalem. We're seeing now a situation which has never been in Israeli history before. 250 hostages taken from 40 settlements in Israel on October 7, 2023. 90 of whom are still there, still and taken hostage. Still, half of them are alive, half of them are not alive. We're not sure of the numbers. But what's very important to understand is that the entity behind the hostage taking is the Palestine Liberation Organization, which delegates the Hamas to do what it does. Very important. They had a power sharing agreement. The whole world thinks is this entity that comes from Mars or whatever. Hamas, no. Hamas comes from the Palestine Liberation Organization, which gets its support from 135 nations, not all of whom are Arab or Islamic nations. And what's very important to understand is that what's happened in the last few days, we've had some of the hostages handed over, but of course the Bibas family, the Bibas family, mother and two children murdered, bodies handed over. They were murdered back apparently in November, according to the reports that we've seen, and there's no hesitation of the Arabs taking credit for what happened. People say this was a Nazi-like act. It was not. The Nazis consistently obfuscated, hid, did not admit to any of their crimes. Where these people, not only do they admit to their crimes, they've had celebrations the last few days. We live near a couple of Arab villages where we hear the celebrations going on, and not celebrations of leadership, of children, of all kinds of all ages. Very important to understand. This is a national movement which is fighting the Jews, not to kill Israelis, but to kill Jews. How do we know that? If you look on our site, IsraelBehindTheNews.com, you'll see the school books, which they're taught that the Jews have no rights here, and not only that, but that they can be killed. They can be killed, they can be slaughtered, they can be exterminated, and this is right in the Palestinian school books. The school books printed by the state of Palestine for what's called the Palestine Authority, which is the entity that the PLO has formed, the Palestine Liberation Organization has formed, and it's a total war. Now, what's very important to understand is that what Israel's being asked to give up in order to get these hostages back are people who are duly sentenced and convicted of murder who are sitting in Israeli prisons. Today, on Sunday, February 23rd, what's on the agenda is to release another 40 murderers. Now, whether Israel will do that or not is a question. The issue of whether the other side, Hamas / the PLO, could be forthcoming is a question. But what's not in the question is the fact that this is something that can establish a precedent of extortion. Now, if you look at the words of Alan Dershowitz, the famous 85 or 86-year-old jurist, lawyer, person who is an advocate for truth over the years, he says this is not a deal. This is a crime. This is extortion. And Israel has agreed to extortion as a result of a mass kidnapping. And he says this is not the result of a negotiation between equals. If an armed robber puts a gun to your head and says your money and your life, you know that you will give him your money, and it should never be described as a deal. The terrorists are not constrained by morality, law, or truth. Again, what's amazing is that the Palestine Liberation Organization, which has formed this Palestinian state in waiting, is funded by 135 nations around the world, not all of whom are Islamic or even Arab. Very important. They've established themselves in such a way that you cannot question their legitimacy. The USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, provided courses for the Palestinian Liberation Organization to present themselves as a reasonable entity with nice people who dress well and who act like diplomats as opposed to terrorists. So this is very important to understand. Now, in order to personalize the issue, You'll see a picture on the screen. Richard Lakin, an American teacher, school teacher, was one of the people murdered whose killer, Bilal Abu Ghanim, I'm pronouncing his name correctly, was convicted and murdering him and two other people on the bus, given 135 years in prison. And he may come out of prison today or tomorrow. That's that, and this is not to be imagined. The Arabs don't make any pretense about what they're doing. They're very clearly that this is the first of many more that they're going to get out, and they'll get out of prisons by taking more Israel hostages, if Israel agrees to continue this process. Everything is dependent on pressure. Now, the people pressuring, the most important entity pressuring is Qatar. Qatar, an Arab state, which is has mega money coming to it through their oil, which hosts an American air base, very strong, and they also have hired people from the Jewish community, and this is very important to understand that Jews hired by Qatar, and when Qatar came to a place called Hostage Square, and they're paying for a public relations firm at what's called Hostage Square in the center of Tel Aviv. It's been renamed Hostage Square, and my colleagues have witnessed representatives of these PR firms that are paid for by Qatar say, "Oh, please don't criticize Qatar. Qatar, they're actually used as a mediator in the talks. Don't give them any criticism." And most of the Jewish organizations engaged by Qatar have done exactly that. Very important. I want to show you some of the interviews we've done with people convicted in murder. Murder, who Arab convicts of mass murder. We went into the jails in the Palestinian, not in the Palestinian Authority, but in Israel, and we filmed them, and they're very proud of what they're doing. I emphasize these are not Nazis. Nazis did everything possible to hide their crimes. These people are very proud of their crimes. We call this movie For the Sake of Allah, in which killers, many of whom are now freed, other women who are in this movie have been freed in previous hostage deals. Incidentally, the person who handled the hostage deal in 2012 was Ehud Barak, who was Israel's defense minister. We now know that Ehud Barak, after he left his position in 1995 as the Israel commander-in-chief, became a partner in CSIS, an American security firm, which was run by Blinken, the same guy who became the Secretary of State years later. They worked together in 1995. So there's a relationship here between American intelligence and Israel intelligence, in possibly the worst kind of a way. Again, this what's been called a deal, which is actually extortion, which is actually a crime, which has been presented as a mainstream issue for Jewish organizations. And on this day, Sunday, February 23rd, there are many Jewish organizations gathering in a central location in New York, have a rally calling for the freedom of the hostages, and the consequences of which either they don't know or they don't want to know. Every hostage that's freed, there's a price, and the price is, of course, the release of more murderers. And these murderers have a very clear intention, which they do not hide, to carry out more attacks. So take a look at for the sake of Allah, see the nature of the people that are again going to be on the streets of Israel very soon if this goes through. It doesn't have to go through. Everything depends on public pressure. And Mr. Witkoff, who has been handling the negotiations for the United States, also has tremendous investments in Qatar. I sent him a note to the United States position, which certainly he has a conflict of interest. Well, I didn't get an answer, but anyone watching this short movie can make the same question. Witkoff, operating on behalf of President Trump, and before he got into the position, There was no question, there was no possibility that this kind of deal would be struck, where Israel would be forced to hand over hundreds of murderers in exchange for hostages. But this is what Woodcock pulled off, and this is called an accomplishment. Well, I don't know if that's an accomplishment, giving into it to terrorists, especially since it's been sponsored by an Arab state in a full state of war with Israel. So take a look at this. I think it's very important. Very few people see this material, and very few people see the faces of the Arabs who conducted these murders, and it speaks for itself. David Bedein, Israel News Update, February 23rd, 2025. Thank you.
اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه. اللهم إنا نعوذ.
Since 2000, more than 170 Palestinian suicide bombers have blown themselves up in Israel. More than 700 other Palestinians intended to become shaheeds or martyrs, but were caught on their way. They all believed they were on their way to paradise. What makes an entire village believe that they can smell the aroma of paradise after a suicide bombing? And what makes a society believe that upon entrance to heaven, a suicide bomber is greeted by 72 virgins? For the last decade, Palestinian society has undergone a radical change, with Islam replacing the secular nationalist movement as the nation's focus. Within Islam, a new anti-Semitism has been infused into the masses by clerics and Palestinian TV. This new anti-Semitism has helped create a culture of hate and violence.
لا لي خبير ولا ضخام ولا عدس في الثلاث محلات التطهير.
أنا لا أنفي أنه ما كان مذبحة، لكن أقول ضخموها. أنا لا أقول أنه 6 ملايين يهودي، ولا ربما نصف مليون، ممكن مليون بالمعقول، زي ما بتقولوا أنتم بالأقيون، شايف علي بالمنطق. أما بصراحة الحركة الصهيونية شاركت في هذا.
نحن لا نعترف أن لليهود مكان مقدس في القدس.
ونحن نخوض هذه الحرب الشرسة والمعركة الشرسة مع إخوان القردة والخنازير من اليهود من بني صهيون.
Also during this time, the culture has begun to glorify human bombers. Known as a shaheed or martyr, the act was first seen as an individual act, but over time, it has been legitimized and encouraged throughout Palestinian society. It has also spread throughout the Islamic world. Children learn about the martyrs in school. They are praised in mosques, and posters of the dead shaheeds are pasted everywhere in city squares and on busy streets.
نفديك يا شهيد. طيب انتوا ليش بتعملوا هيك مثلا؟
هيك
عشان ايش؟
عشان نقتل اليهود.
عشان
ولكني إذا ما جعت آكل لحم مغتصبي.
To best understand Palestinian society, we visited Israeli jails and met with some of the most respected members of the community, the people who planned suicide bombings.
I'm not killer.
I'm not a killer.
مش أنا القاتل.
أما أنا قاتل أبدا.
You are not murderer. You are not killer.
Even little pussycat I didn't kill.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
Today, there are over 1,000 Palestinian men and women in prison for their role in helping to carry out suicide bombings. Meet Abdullah Barghouti, who built bombs that killed 66 people and injured hundreds. He is now in a maximum security prison in solitary confinement.
Before I was very normal. I was working engineer in Jerusalem. I make all my day working. After that, go to have few hours rest in my village. Go to the beach in Tel Aviv. Spend a good time there with my wife, my daughter. I live normal life without any kind of problem. I wasn't in any organization.
But as the Palestinian uprising grew more violent, Barghouti decided he wanted to build bombs and joined Hamas.
I play the guitar. After that, I decide I will make bomb. But which way, I don't know. Because the first time, nobody tell me, nobody teach me, just to me. I make the stuff of the bombing. After that, I decide I will put it in the guitar. And I will forget the romantic way. I will throw the guitar and forget that way. I open the guitar, put the bomb inside, close it, send it with the istishhadi.
Ikhlam Tamimi once studied journalism at a Palestinian university. Like many of her fellow students, she joined Hamas. On August 9th, 2001, she received a phone call in a college lecture hall.
عندما تلقيت المكالمة لم أعلم أن اليوم هو موعد تنفيذ العملية. فقط طلب مني أن أنزل إلى رام الله. ووصلت إلى رام الله وهناك فوجئت بوجود محمد ومعه عز الدين المصري ورأيته من بعيد. لم أسلم عليه ولم فقط حفظنا بعض عن طريق النظرات. هو حفظ شكلي وأنا حفظت شكله وانتقلنا إلى المرحلة الفعلية.
Tamimi is now in jail for the rest of her life. She accompanied Izzadin al-Masri, a student from Jenin, to Sparrow.
نعم، كان الاستشهاد عز الدين القسام كان أولى الكلمات التي تعرفت فيها على عز الدين المصري كانت في شارع يافا أثناء تنفيذ العملية.
شو حكيت؟
لم نتحدث الكثير من الأمور والكثير من المواضيع، يعني كانت يعني مواضيع بسيطة، حيث أنه كان يملك في عيونه نظرة غريبة فسرتها أنا، أسأل الله أن أكون قد فسرتها بشكل صحيح، بتوقه واشتياقه الجم الكبير للاستشهاد وإلى لقاء الله. فعز الدين المصري سألني سؤال واحد، أول كلام هو سؤال واحد: هل يوجد يهود متدينين في المنطقة التي نذهب إليها؟ هذا كان سؤاله، وأجبته نعم، يوجد عدد يرتاد المكان الذي سنذهب له، عدد من اليهود المتدينين وأشخاص آخرين، لكن أنا حسب رصدي للموضوع فقد كان يوجد في ذات المكان أو على بعد منه مدرسة يهودية للمتدينين أعتقد، يعني كانت موجودة هناك في منطقة أبعد، فكانت هذا الشارع يمشي به عدد من اليهود المتدينين. كان يسأل بالتحديد هذا السؤال، وأن يكون وكم
ليش سأل السؤال هذا على المتدينين؟
طبعا لأنك تعلم أن الصراع الإسرائيلي الفلسطيني هو أساسه قائم على خلاف ديني. نظرت في عيونه ونظر إلي وقلت له لا إله إلا الله، فأجابني محمد رسول الله، وذهب في طريقه وأنا في طريقي.
In August of 2001, Izzadin al-Masri walked into Sparrow and blew himself up.
لا أستطيع أن أقول لك أنني كنت في قمة فرحي وأنني لا، أنا فارقت إنسان، فارقت بشر. يعني كان يعني فلسفة الموت بنظري هي شيء صعب جدا، أن أكون قبل لحظات قد مشيت مع إنسان تحدث إلي وتحدثت إليه، وفي غضون دقائق غاب وأصبح في عالم آخر. الشعور الذي انتابني في لحظتها يعني كان كل تفكيري وجل تفكيري مركز في عز الدين المصري وشخصيته العظيمة وجرأته على الإقدام في هذا الموضوع، وبقيت أفكر بشخص عز الدين المصري، لم أفكر بأي شيء آخر لحظتها.
You feel sorry؟
لا
بالمرة؟
نهائيا. لماذا؟
Mohammed Douglas, who recruited Ikhlam Tamimi, is also in jail for his part in the Sparrow bombing. How was the news received in the village that you live in?
The people very, very happy.
Soon after the explosion, news spread to Jenin and the restaurant owned by Al-Masri's parents. We asked the Sparrow bombers' parents how they felt about their son killing himself and 15 other people.
والحمد لله من فضل الله يا أخوي والله الله وقف بجاه الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين يعني عمليته الحمد لله رب العالمين ما فيش ليش بيها الحمد لله وعن قناعة راح يعني مش إنه تقول يعني اسمه قديش قعد يعني عنا ما عمرنا لاحظنا عليه أكثر إشي بس هو بس كل وقت صلاته بالجامع وكل وقت قراءة قرآن وكل وقت بوقته بالجامع بس وغير الدين ما عندهوش يعني بس.
After the bombing, the Al-Masri restaurant in Jenin became a shrine to the suicide bomber. In the dining room, a life-size mural of Al-Masri was painted, and today it is a popular spot for young Palestinians to visit. While the Sparrow bombing killed 15 people and injured more than 100, Barghouti was not done building bombs. In March of 2002, he built a bomb that blew up the Moment restaurant in Jerusalem. Here he describes the suicide belt.
What's the belt made out of, and how do you decide how big the belt will be?
The size, he was, there is, he must be around 14 centi. This is the small size, and this is what we use. Put like that, if we have a screw or you have a metal pole, you will put it, glue it. After you glue it, you will cover it another piece. After that, you will put explosive material inside it. Then you will make like a hand spelt.
Mohammed Qassam was the commander of the Hamas terrorist cell that killed dozens of Israelis and also wounded hundreds. He oversaw the bombings at the Moment Cafe, the Hebrew University cafeteria in Jerusalem, and a social club near Tel Aviv. He also tried to blow up an oil distribution center.
Our team, the orders was to do things that makes the Israelis understand that we are looking for a new way. We are looking for new targets that if you didn't understand that your streets and your cafe shops not in peace and that is not enough for you, so you have to understand that even your universities, your trains, your factories, your every place will be, we will reach to every place. That night we know that the cafe Moment at that night it's full with people. It's full, and we know that there is a little range around at the door of the cafe Moment. There is a lot of people sit there, but we know that there inside there is a lot of people. So I asked them to get in, not to stay at the door, to get in the cafe Moment.
In July of 2002, Qassam detonated a bomb that had been planted inside a cafeteria at the Hebrew University.
When you pushed the send button on your cell phone, did you feel any emotion? Were you thinking about who you were going to kill and how many people you were going to kill?
At first I thought that it will not work, because it was the first bag. They used to use istishadi. But this bag, I thought that it will not work. But when I see what's done there, I understand that it's make the works. the same work.
This phenomenon is not limited to the male population. Palestinian women and teenagers have also adopted the culture of the Shaheed. There are now more than 100 female prisoners associated with suicide bombings in Israeli prisons. Every day, many sit and study together. On a day we visited, they were studying the philosophy of Sayyid Qutb, a proponent of killing for the sake of Islam. Included in the group was Wafa al-Bas. After being badly burned in 2005, she was brought to an Israeli hospital in Beersheba. 2 months after she was first treated, she returned to the hospital with an explosive belt strapped to her body. But before she got to the hospital, she was apprehended by Israeli security.
ما حسيتش بالخوف، ما شعرتش اني انا مثلا خايفه، شعرت براحه شديده لان انا رايحه الاقي ربنا وراح استشهد وراح اعمل شيء في سبيل الله يعني. ما شعرتش اي شيء الا براحه يعني تامه.
كنت فرحانه؟
كثير فرحانه. وراضيه عن نفسي جدا يعني، لاني كنت بدي هيك اشوف الشهداء اروح على الجنه وهيك اشياء. وارض ربنا بالنهايه.
شو كان في راسك جوا في راسك لما سكرتي عينيكي وشفتي شو كان في راسك؟
تخيلت حالي في الجنه، تخيلت حالي بين الشهداء، تخيلت حالي بين الانهار والحور العين وهيك حاجات. يعني كان شعوري مرتاحه جدا وانا برتدي في الحزام الناسف، لاني كان عندي مبدا اني احاول اقتل اكبر عدد من اليهود، يعني هيك تكون يعني عدد كثير من اليهود قتلى هيك.
The group was eager to discuss the meaning of jihad.
يعني لو يطلع لي ألين كل اليهود أقتلهم مرة واحدة، بالذات هذول المتدينين.
ليش؟
بكرههم.
ما بكره، ليش؟
يعتدوا علينا كثير. أعداء وطن، أعداء إسلام.
شو الكرامات اللي عندها للاستشهادية؟ نعم.
أنا الاستشهادية بتكون سيدة الحور العين، هي سيدة الحور العين في الجنة، فالاستشهادي بيكون له 72 حورية، في بتكون سيدتهم كلهم، هي الملكة الأميرة عليهم كلهم.
جزء من الدولة الفلسطينية، جزء من الدولة الإسلامية الكبرى.
بس أنا بكون في السلام مع إسرائيل صراحة. مستحيل إسرائيل أكثر من مرة. بعدين هاي خارطة الطريق، الجدار الفاصل، أوسلو، كلياتها هاي خطة وهمية بتتبعها إسرائيل. أنا من رأيي يعني، هذا رأيي الشخصي، خطط وهمية بتتبعها إسرائيل. أنا في إسرائيلي بقدرش أعيش أنا وياه، في ناس بيقولوا بيقدروا يعيشوا بسلام، أنا بقدرش أعيش بسلام لأنه احتل أرض.
أسامة بن لادن
ماله؟
الله ينصره.
لا هيك أسامة بن لادن دشر كل متاع الدنيا، حمل بس رشاشه. أسامة بن لادن دشر كل متاع الدنيا، كل هاي الحياة اللي انت شايفها، الشهوات والملذات، وهو ملياردير عنده بلايين المصاري، دشر كل هاي الحياة وحمل رشاشه وطلع في الجبال. ليه؟ عشان ينصر الإسلام. بطل 60 بطل، مش بطولي، هو أغنى الناس في حبه للإسلام، أغنى الناس في رضاء الله، وربنا مغني في ثباته وصموده في الجبال. صدقني كل إنسان بيحاول ينصر الإسلام أنا معه. وحسن نصر الله أنا من الناس المؤيدين له، لأنه الثاني بيحاول. أمريكا عمال بتفكفك في الحكومة اللبنانية، وهو عمال بجمعهم على طاولة واحدة. ليه؟ لأنه بيخاف على الإسلام.
إحنا كلياتنا مع أسامة بن لادن وكمان ونصر الله كمان.
قلبا وقالبا.
بس هذا هو.
ثورة إيش حكوا عن؟
لا لأنه هو بنصف الإسلام يعني.
هو مثل صورة المجاهد الحقيقي. بيمثل صورة المجاهد الحقيقي، لازم كل الأمة الإسلامية تكون زيه.
احكي له يا ريت كل
يعيد لنا مجلس
العرب مثله زي نصر الله وبن لادن. لا كان زمان تحررنا فلسطين، لو بس نلاقي كمان بس 10 زي بن لادن، شايف بس 10 فلسطين كلها تتحرر.
The Maxim restaurant has long been a symbol of Israeli and Arab coexistence in Haifa. Co-owned by Jews and Arabs, it was frequented by both Jews and Muslims. In October of 2003, it was blown up by a female Palestinian lawyer, Hanadi Jaradat. 19 people were killed in the attack. Islamic Jihad later claimed responsibility. After the Maxim bombing, a poll reported that 75% of the Palestinian population said that they approved of the attack. To learn more about why a lawyer would blow up a restaurant full of people, we traveled to Jenin, where dozens of suicide bombers have emerged. On the downtown streets, depictions of suicide bombers are everywhere. The local cemetery is a shrine to the bombers. After the attack, the Palestinian government gave the suicide bombers' parents a new apartment.
شوفي قلبي.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. هاي احنا بكل فخر واعتزاز ان احنا الحمد لله ان شاء الله بيكتب لهم الجنه وبيشفعوا لنا يكونوا شفيعين إنا ان شاء الله. طبيعيه وتضحك وتلعب ونزلت تضحك وتلعب ولا إشي. وصايمه.
صايمه؟
نزلت صايمه. إلها شهرين بكت تصوم، إحنا يعني بصوم وبصلي الحمد لله رب العالمين، صايمة وكاري القرآن 6 نكلات، الليلة جيتها بقولها أبوها قوم صلي بتقول له صليت، بتشوف، أنا بشوفها في المنام، أنا بشوفها بتقول لي تعيطيش، مين ما يشوفها بقولها أنت بتقول أنا ما متش.
قدافي اتصل معكم شو حكى؟
بقول اتصل فيه وقال له يعني إنها هنادي بكت هي محامية وهي الدفاع، هي دافعت عن نفسها وعن حقها، وحكمت وفعلت.
أنا بقيت مسؤول في المنطقة اللي أنا فيها عن مجموعة من العسكريين يعني اللي بينفذوا عمليات عسكرية ضد الاحتلال. عشان هيك أنا يعني صرت المسؤول الأول عن العملية. يعني البنت زي الشاب. إحنا بالنسبة لنا شرعا في الدين الإسلامي وسياسيا من يعني الشعب الفلسطيني وفي كل العالم يعني البنت زي الشاب.
During a Passover Seder in 2002, a group of Israelis that included Holocaust survivors gathered at the Park Hotel in Netanya to celebrate the holiday of freedom. As they prayed, a Hamas suicide bomber walked into the hotel's dining room and blew himself up. 30 people were murdered in one of the most deadly suicide bomb attacks ever in Israel. Abbas al-Sayed was convicted of planning the Park Hotel bombing. He is a biomedical engineer who attended college in America. He is also considered one of the most dangerous terrorists in jail.
The mentality of Palestinians now see the martyrdom operation as altruistic action. For sure, they are heroes. We consider them as heroes, not only as Palestinians. They are being considered as heroes all over the Arabic and Islamic world.
In another section of the prison, we met with 2 brothers who conducted 2 separate suicide bombings on September 9th, 2003. Ibrahim Badr drove a suicide bomber to a bus stop where 9 Israeli soldiers were killed. His brother Bahir, a university graduate, sent a suicide bomber to Cafe Hillel, a popular Jerusalem restaurant. 7 people died, including an American-Israeli doctor and his daughter. Her wedding had been scheduled for the next day. In his jail cell, Bahir Badr wanted to talk about building the suicide belt.
You buy the materials, okay? You prepare the materials, chemical process.
What materials are there? Can you tell me the materials?
Materials, acetone, you know the acetone, and oxygenated water, and some. This is the main 2 materials in preparing the bomb. Although you need steel. Like every bomb, you need steel to make injuries, to make to affect the matter or the goal.
How do you choose the steel? How do you decide how much steel you're going to put in?
As I learned, every belt you must put it at least 1,000 and 2,000 very little steel.
After you learned of the explosion, what did you do?
I watched the television, okay, and I heard about the operation, and that's it. The story's end, okay, and we were thinking about doing more operations.
They also wanted to talk about the man who blew himself up.
Now I hope he is in paradise. I hope. Why? Because this is our believing. Okay, the West or many people do not believe in this. You know, but we are Muslims. We believe in this thing. Yeah, but he believes that there are another life after this life.
What's that life like?
Like it's description in our Quran, the description of this life. Life, beautiful life, wonderful life. You know, there are. First of all, you meet Allah. This is a big or a top bliss. You know, this is the most wonderful thing in paradise. Yeah.
Meet Abdul Rahman Shadid. Like other prisoners, he also talked about jihad and the Islamic view of life after death. A university graduate, he is serving a life sentence for his role in a suicide bombing near Tel Aviv.
في ديننا وعقيدتنا فلسطين من بحرها إلى نهرها هي أرض الإسلام والمسلمين، وليس لأحد من غير المسلمين الحق له على هذه الأرض. هذه عقيدتنا. مهما تخيلت ما يوجد في الجنة من نعيم فلن تستطيع أن تدرك هذا النعيم الكبير العظيم، لكن توجد عندنا مسميات لهذا النعيم في القرآن والسنة. يعني توجد عندنا فيها من الفواكه، فيها أنهار، فيها جنان، فيها أشجار، فيها طيور، فيها لحوم، فيها حور عين، فيها أشياء كثيرة موجودة في الجنة.
اليهود اللي ماتوا بالعملية هل هم برضو الشهيد وبرضو بيروحوا الجنة؟ أبدا، ليسوا بشهداء وليسوا من أهل الجنة، ولو كانوا شهداء ومن أهل الجنة لما أقدمنا على قتلهم، لكان هذا إثم وجريمة. نحن كيف نقتل المسلمين؟ كيف نقتل مسلم؟ لو كان اليهودي مسلم لما قتلناه. هناك شرط لدخول الجنة هو الإيمان بالله أولا، ثم بالرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم، محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم هو آخر الأنبياء، وبعثه جاء بعد موسى عليه السلام وبعد عيسى عليه السلام، وبالتالي لم يكن هناك داعي للبقاء على دين موسى وعيسى عليه السلام، بما أن دين الإسلام جاء وألغى ما قبله من الديانات. فاليهودي والنصراني إذا آمن بالله، هذه عقيدتنا، إذا آمن بالله وآمن بمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم كرسول وكخاتم للأنبياء، فعند ذلك يدخل الجنة ويكون مسلما.
الشهداء عندنا بداية حتى بالألفاظ، نحن لا نقول سقط الشهيد، نحن نقول ارتقى الشهيد. بعده تقام نسميها يعني بعض اللي هي الاحتفالات، مش احتفالات طبعا، بديش اسميها احتفالات بمعنى واحد حسب الناس يعني بترقص وبتغني، لا، انما بعضها تقام طبعا في بيته، اهله اقاربه يستقبلوا المهنئين باستشهاده وليس المعزين. توزع الحلوى لمدة 3 أيام طبعا في بيت نسميه طبعا اللي هو هذا الذي يفتحه طبعا أهل الشهيد، ويعتبر طبعا بعد ذلك بيتسوى له شوي بوسترز كويس طبعا بأجمل الصور له، ويعتبر إن شاء الله شهيد عند أهله، وهذا الناس ما بيزعلوا.
The Hamas government member also believes that a martyr's body still functions after being buried.
إنه أحد الإخوة اللي استشهدوا كويس توفي، وبعد 100 يوم بدهم ينقلوه، كانوا دفنوه بسرعة أيام الاحتلال والاجتياحات، دفنوه بسرعة في قبر، فبعد تقريبا 100 يوم ذهبوا عشان ينقلوه من مكان إلى آخر. هل لما توفي أو استشهد هذا الأخ كانت لحيته قصيرة كويس، لما بعد 100 يوم راحوا يشيلوه لحيته كانت طولانة، أصبحت تقريبا يعني ضعف ما كانت عليه كويس، وبعضهم وجد لسه دمه سخن.
اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك.
With the fundamental wave of Islam washing over the Palestinian territories, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is growing more violent each day. Palestinians no longer see their struggle through the eyes of nationalism, but as a religious one. The issues of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, and the land itself, as a holy land, are now considered by many as unsolvable. The interpretation of Islam by fundamentalists and the new Muslim anti-Semitism now serves as a catalyst for more terrorism. This culture of hate is limited not just toward Israel, it is also aimed at American and Western culture. The Palestinian society is now run by an Islamic government. Now, there is no talk of returning to a secular-led society. In fact, Palestinians are moving closer to their religion more than ever. With no societal change, no one can predict just how much more violence will occur in the coming years. In Gaza, East Jerusalem, Nablus, and Hebron, young Palestinians are waiting to enter paradise.
اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه.
Would you like your child to blow himself up? If there is a question, no problem. To play ballet, dancing ballet. This is what I sent to my little girl, 6 years. I tell her you must learn how to dance ballet. But if there is a question, she will finish ballet, start to learn another thing. Thanks a lot.
اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه.